Well, hello everyone and welcome along to something brand new here in the SimGrid. We've been building up to this all month as we head to the Coach Dave Time Attack. The circuit we're heading to, of course, is in West Kingsdown in Kent, and it is the 3.9 kilometre challenge of Brands Hatch. It really is a difficult circuit. All of the corners around here provide their own challenge, 4 left, 5 right, and it will be one of the most fantastic battles that we'll see, not on wheel-to-wheel combat, but on the timesheets. And to talk you through all of it, it's myself, Lewis McGlade, alongside me for a bit of a debut in the commentary perspective. It is James Parker. Hello and welcome. This is going to be a good night.
It is, yeah, thank you. Obviously a bit of a change of scenery for me, being normally commentated on rather than commentating on people. So looking forward to a good selection of hot laps, and obviously hopefully it'll be very close at the top.
I'm sure it will be. To talk you through how this evening is going to work, though, we're going to go through what is essentially a qualifying format, and they are all playing for a prize, which, again, we will cover off in a few moments' time. They'll roll through their qualifying sessions. Q1, which you can see in the bottom there, it says the top 20 will go through. This has changed ever so slightly. It is the top 15 drivers will go through into Q2. So 19 will become 15, 15 will become 10, and then once we're done with Q3, the top 3 will battle it out for prize money. $1,000 on the line, 700 going to the winner, and then 200 to second, 100 to third. Not a bad evening's cash grab if you can go and set the fastest time here, but you've got to deliver in every single session.
Yes, I mean, Darren McCormack's obviously dominated the first 3 events. He's looking obviously mighty strong in the Bentley. You've also got drivers like Dominic Blyer in the Bentley as well, and Lars Kisser, Luke Whitehead in the Porsche. I mean, there's some serious, hot lap talent here with guys that are real top quality.
What cars, I wonder, are we looking at being strong here? We'll get to that in a moment, because of course one of our sponsors here, Sim Place, where you can go and grab yourself some of the biggest sim racing hardware, whether you're looking for wheels and such. Definitely a great place to go for all of the advanced sim racers, those trying to battle it out at the top, and also those brand new to sim racing. Always good to get involved and move your way up the ladder. But the cars, though, to go back to it, which cars are we kind of looking at to be strong around here?
Yeah, I mean, the entry list has kind of featured around the fastest cars, to be honest. I mean, if you look at the top guys, they've all gone for strong contenders. I mean, historically, on this latest update on ACC, the Bentley has been super strong on D tracks, sprint tracks, the McLaren 2 and the Porsche. So the outsider really is the Audi. It's had a recent engine buff that has kind of brought it up to be much more competitive. So maybe one of the Audi drivers could be a dark horse, but I'm definitely looking at one of the Bentley, McLaren or Porsche drivers tonight.
I mean, particularly with the Bentley drivers, looking at one in very specific fashion. Dara McCormack, the pathway into this has been through 3 hot lap challenges. Essentially, we've had sessions open, they've jumped onto the servers, and they've set the times, and the top 10 from each of the 3 sessions, from each of the 3 weeks, have moved into this event, or been given an invite into this event, plus one random draw driver, one wild card from that as well. All 3 weeks, though, have been topped by the same driver, and it does happen to be one Mr. Dara McCormack, going into this as a very firm favourite, and in one of those cars being the Bentley as well. So should be extremely strong. And there is the Irishman. He's got a lot of weight on his shoulders and a lot of weight in the car as well. Big Bentley there.
Yeah, he's used to this now, obviously being competing in SRO and stuff, so he'll be used to kind of laps under pressure, but he'll have confidence from dominating the first 3 rounds. He's in an extremely competitive car for this final round, and I'm sure he'll be right up there fighting for the top spot come Q3.
And it is a very difficult circuit as well. We can see it in all of its glory. I said it before, it's 3.9 kilometres around. Each of the corners is so unique in its challenge. Running through Hawthorne's Bend here, where it's kind of a mid to late apex. Westfield Bend, where you use so much of the curb on the inside and the outside. Cormac almost used a little bit too much there on the exit. But what's the hardest the corner on this circuit?
That's a difficult
throwing you straight under the bus.
I mean, look, there's a couple of nasty spots. I mean, Druid has got a raised curb on the inside that you can easily get wheel spin on if you take too much curb. Hawthorne's got a nasty bump on the inside where the grass is, so if you're trying to be a bit too greedy on the inside, that can kind of spit you out and you kind of generate a bit of understeer there. And it's just mostly about kind of gathering momentum. You know, it's a very momentum-based track. The whole back end of the track is so fast, and like Sheens, for example, it's all about commitment through there and not touching the grass on the exit, because if you catch the grass there, you know, your lap is ruined. So it's all just about carrying, you know, like a high minimum corner speed, and yeah, just maximising the exit. It's about getting rotation early, because if you get that rotation early, you can just exploit the maximum amount of track, as Darren McCormack did there on the exit 30s, and it comes down to a good lap at the end.
Maybe attacking a little bit too hard through 30s there. You can see this is one thing that we're going to see built up over the session, as much as laps even here in Q1, even to the end of Q1, might get a little bit rough, as there is a bit of a rough one there from Darren McCormack. Whilst they might be a little bit rough here, they're going to get cleaner and cleaner and cleaner and tighter and tighter and tighter as this session runs on. But that is a critical error from Darren McCormack, and he is not immune to being knocked out in this session. Once we're done with the 15-minute timesheet here, we'll take the top 15 from this. Now it says top 20 in the bottom. That is because it's slightly changed coming into this event, so do not panic too much. But the top 15 will be moving on. If you are Darren McCormack, if you're Luke Whitehead, Amir Hosseini, you know, the names that we're expecting to potentially even go the distance, you are not infallible at this point. You can get knocked out in Q1 if you aren't careful. It's not a long track around here, but you don't get too many laps either.
No, and traffic's a big thing. Like all these guys are very close in terms of raw pace, but you know, if you're on a warm-up lap or you're trying to build a bit of a gap and you're on a hot lap behind, say, and you get caught in a bit of traffic, it can easily ruin you. You know, it's so easy. And obviously the guys have only got 11.5 minutes to go. It's probably three runs worth of laps left. But if you don't nail it straight away with this kind of competitive grid at the top, if you're not on it straight away, then you are very much a risk come the end of Q1.
And that's just it. You kind of need to get a decent lap in early, not a great lap. Doesn't need to be a perfect lap in, not in this session anyway, but it needs to be a decent lap so that you can attack it a bit later on session. So if you do need to go for that 10th or 2, you can start risking it. At the moment, the 3 drivers that are yet to set a time, Darren McCormack, Mattia Blotto and Luke Whitehead, 3 very strong drivers in 3 good cars, Bentley, McLaren and the Porsche. So they're all drivers that we would expect to move up at the moment, and that's kind of one of the things in their session. They've not got times on the board. There's only 11 minutes left. I'm sure they are going to be fine to set those times, but if you're making mistakes, Q1's probably the place to do it, because in Q2 and stuff, as the sessions roll on, we will have less and less time in the session, so less and less mistakes can be made now. If you're going to make a mistake, it's probably now or never.
Yeah, you want to bang her in. You want an early lap that just kind of, you'll know roughly where you need to kind of be lap time wise to get you through Q1. So you'd want to get that time on the board early. You could then just go back to the pits. Like I imagine, you know, Darren McCormack's just set a 21.8, for example, straight in there. That's a good enough banker lap. I mean, let's be honest. There's no risk of him going out in Q1 now. So, and you can then relax. You know, you don't have to worry about going back out again and setting more and more runs. But what it does do, if you feel confident, you can go back out, maybe try and play with the track limits, maybe try and push the boat out a little bit in Q1, find out where the limits are, and then come Q2 and Q3, you're already warmed up, you know where you're going. So
And it is a very unforgiving track as well at Brands. So at the moment, it's an improvement from Hosseini that's moved him up into second position as well. Contagianis, Apel also moving up inside the top 10. Does mean that Caracas now being the first driver that would be knocked out, or not knocked out, never mind, it's the 15, never mind.
15 Lewis,
he's just trying to keep everyone on edge, on edge, don't panic too much. It's Greeny then would be the first person to get knocked out with Martinez, Pellicori and Luke Whitehead, who are yet to set time. We're looking to knock out 4 drivers from this session. I'll keep myself up to speed on that one, but still, it's one of those things that changes quickly. Even if you're at the top, you're absolutely right. Set some decent lap times whilst you might well be safe to a certain degree. One, things can change very quickly in a session like this, and number 2, and it is the most important bit, as you're saying, you're then carrying momentum into the next session. If you can set a lap time, like for example a 21.8, that's 0.3 faster than everyone else. If you were to do that at the end of the session, that's like a warning shot to everyone else in the session to be like, okay, this is what I'm bringing to the table. What have you got?
Absolutely. I mean, look, all these guys here know they're fast at the end of the day. You know, they do carry a bit of ego, and if they see themselves 3 or 4 tenths down come the end of the session, they're not going to be happy about that. You know, whereas on the other end of the stick, if you're 3 tenths clear, you feel like you've got a few people in your pocket. So it all just comes down to nailing that lap time. I mean, the one mistake here at Brands, you bleed time so easily. You get a bit of extra wheel spin, especially through here, Graham Hill Bend, or you run a bit wide there and catch a track limit, and your lap's done. So yeah, it is so easy to make a mistake here, and the guys that are struggling for a bit of pace, maybe 3-4 tenths down on that leading car, they just want to kind of build a bit of confidence, and it all comes down to whether they can nail it in that final session.
Whilst we're looking at, Caracas there, as we now jump to the virtual drives by TX3. Caracas being, that was actually our first look at the Visceral Esports livery. It's a team name you might not have heard of. They're quite big elsewhere in the esports landscapes, but that is the rebrand to Volante. Volante Racing, who were that. I think it's their 4th different name in 2 years, which is hilarious. They were originally TCS off, then they became Allied Racing Esports by TCS off. Then I'm pretty sure they became something else. Then they became Assetto, similar, whatever it was. And then it's Volante, and now it's Visceral. It's very hard to keep up, but either way, moving to a different brand and partnering up with another esports team that work elsewhere, and it's their venture into sim racing as to why we're seeing Visceral Esports taking part in this. That is story time over, because lap times are being set. Darren McCormack back out on the circuit, 21.8 his time. I very much doubt that's going to be moved down to 15th or 16th position, which would be the all-important one to get knocked out. But still, you're absolutely right. Just trying to keep himself warm. There's no point in taking your foot off the pedal and going for a bit of a breather. This session really, from start to finish, should only be for an hour and a half, maybe hour and 20 minutes. Keep staying out there, keep setting times, because the thing is, if you take your foot off the pedal, you might get a bit complacent, and then later on in the day, you'll be really regretting that move.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, any one of maybe the top 10 could pop up and do a lap time. You can't afford to think that a lap time is enough. What anyone can consider to get up there and improve. So yeah, it's about just stand on your toes and just maximising every run confidence wise. And I can see Will Greeny has now gone up into 15th place. He was just outside the top 15 a minute ago, so he's managed to grab that final spot, that all-important spot. So Gorka and Blotto and Martinez will all be looking to try and jump that extra tenth or so they need to jump in there.
Yeah, it's tight at the bottom of the... I do look mostly for the fact that it is just hilarious banter. But of course, left-hand side, very professional looking, very clean looking livery. Right-hand side, it's just a white car with Comic Sans saying a graphic design is my passion, just all over the place. I think
a livery.
It is amazing. I think it's hilarious. Of course, it's a livery that the first time I saw this livery being used, Cameron Bridport was driving it in our Best of British Championship last year, and it's like you're just looking at it being like, that is both hilarious and great. David Christie did not like it. I did not approve in any way, shape, or form. So I was more on the approval. I was like, yeah, I love it.
That reminds me of the old BAR liveries from '99.
Yes,
with the zip, yeah, that were banned. Nice to see that kind of carry on in ACC, like in a way. But
you got to have fun.
But you have, yeah. At the end of the day, it's you know, you can be creative as much as you want with liveries, and part of that is obviously rather being a bit ironic, I guess. So.
Yeah. One time I did a championship and I thought I was going to do really bad, and so I thought, wouldn't it be really funny to make a police car? It was a Super Tourist, and so I made a police car, a Renault Laguna police car, which I thought was hilarious. And then 4 rounds into the championship, I got a pole. That's not a brag. It's just how the session went with weather and stuff. But I got a pole, and so I was like, this looks ridiculous on a broadcast with a police car with a massive smiley face on the front of it. Like, this is, yeah. Sometimes sim racing, you've got to go for the jokey side of things.
Absolutely, you missed an opportunity with the Volvo 850 and the dog in the back, though. That is
so true.
But we're having a look at Jonathan Riley now in P7. He looks like he's on a pretty clean lap so far from the onboard. Just needs to nail Clark curve on the final corner here. See what lap time this comes out at.
Yeah, heading towards the line. Riley is at the moment about half a second off. Boom, goes straight up into second. Now, whilst there is a very large gap to Dara Cormac, who did improve, by the way, to a 21.7, decent lap time from Riley.
Absolutely. I mean, that's put into P2. I mean, 2 minutes 56 to go. I'm not sure how many laps he wasn't on that run, whether he's got a couple more in his pocket that he can now try and improve on. But if you look at the gap now down to P15, you've got half a second in your pocket. I think he'd be pretty confident with that he can then get through to Q2.
Well, Anka goes up then into 8th. Caracas goes all the way up into 2nd place. So for Visceral Esports, things have just gone very, very nice in this session, getting 2nd and 3rd at the moment. 2.5 minutes left to go. Let's focus on what is at hand. Again, just to remind you, the top 15 drivers, so from McCormack all the way down to Greeny, will move over into Q2. We will lose 4 drivers from this as Luke Whitehead crosses the line and improves by a couple of tenths up into 2nd. We'll, at the moment, as things stand, we'll lose Gorka, we'll lose Blotto, Martinez, and Pellicori. Gorka has returned to the pit lane with 2 minutes left to go. It's going to be pretty tight for Gorka to stay in the session. Still plenty of time to get out there, though, but they are all going to start their final laps. Manisha and Greeny right on the cusp, though. They are most certainly not safe, as there was Blotto coming round the final section of the racetrack, as Amir Hosseini now rolls up towards the line. Of course, recently signed properly full-time for GTWR, and boom, straight up into 2nd. We are expecting him to be very strong this evening.
Absolutely. I mean, Amir's been around for a long, long time. I've raced against him for 2 or 3 years now, and yeah, consistently he's always been one of the top guys in ACC, so no surprises there to see him put it in P2 with a high 21. And yeah, I just wonder if Gorka has left this too late. I've just seen the pit symbol has gone, so he's obviously on an outlap. But with 1 minute and 8, he's hopefully quite far around the track, and he'll only get one run here, 1 lap. So yeah, he will get 1 lap at this to try and get out of the bottom 4 here. So that's going to be pretty tight on his side.
Will Greeny will head towards the line, then stays in 15th. Luke Whitehead, boom. Ooh. Though. Luke Whitehead goes on top. There is a warning shot fired in at the end of the session for GTWR RHG Academy. That is a superb lap time from Whitehead. There is Gorka for Prime E Racing out on the track. Now, with it only being 1 lap, is that enough time and that enough laps, enough distance to put the correct amount of heat into the tyres? Or are you basically going to have to struggle with a car that's not fully up to temp?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you'd have to just up the pressures, because on the first lap the pressures are never ideal, the temps aren't ideal, so you just have to basically up the pressures and pray, basically on that single lap. So yeah, I would have definitely not waited that long. I mean, at least 2 laps you want at Brown Brands, 3 is preferable. On the 3rd lap the cars just hold on, but yeah, the first lap is never fastest from my experience. You know, you always use that as a way to just warm up and get into a rhythm, and then lap 2 and 3 are always where the lap time comes. So yeah, we'll have to see if the luck develops and he can make it come the end here.
Well, I mean, not a great way to end the session at the moment, but it could all come down to this 1 final lap at the moment. Gorka is up. Talk us through this final sector. Let's see if there is any proof. Feels like a little bit late there into Surtees.
Yeah, a bit of wheel spin there on the exit Surtees, and we'll now go down. This is a really difficult corner here, Hawthorns. It's we've got to avoid that bump on the grass on the inside. He does that. He kisses the curb perfectly. We'll see here if he maximises track limits. Nice cut on the inside there. Enough curb. Could have been a bit wider there. Kind of a bit more momentum. Then to Surtees, how far does he cut? All a bit wide there. Look, bit of a slide. It's the penultimate corner now. Take lots of curb on the entry. Yeah, that's a good line. I mean, you can take the grass on the exit. It doesn't really slow you down. And yeah, just needs a good run out of here. This is really important. Look, you don't want a lot of oversteer here, and then literally hug the white line to the pit, the start-finish line.
Oh, it was enough.
He's just in.
Whoa, it was enough. Just, I mean, my heart was pounding there. Gorka has just moved on into the next session. Again, to remind you, it is the top 15 that move through, which means we lose 4 drivers. Those 4 at the moment would have been Pellicori, Martinez, Blotto, and it would have been Gorka. It's no longer Gorka, it is Greeny, who we were wondering if that was enough from Greeny there. Didn't improve on that final lap that he set. And that is it. Those 4 are done for the evening. Pellicori, Martinez, Blotto, and Greeny. Only one session done, and that's it. They're out.
Poor old Wall Greeny there. I mean, he would have probably been on board from the pit lane watching the delta of Gorka's lap, and yeah, it all come down to that final corner. Those few hundredths that you can gain with a good run, and yeah, just snuck in by the skin of his teeth.
But that's why we like a session like this. Yeah, we want it to be tight. We want it to be about those last-minute changes. And that's exactly what we're going to get, by the way, as we move through the evening, because we'll get into Q2 in a few moments' time. And Q2 will be about finding the top 10 drivers that will move through into Q3. That is it's not as long of a session. It was 15 minutes, Q1. Q2, we shrink the time down. It's just 10 minutes. Once we're done with Q2, we have 10 drivers. We'll do Q3, obviously, which is only 8 minutes long, and then we settle it down to just 3 drivers who will all go into a bit of a shootout, which we will explain later as to how that's going to work, but they'll all fight each other on the timesheets to see who's going to be the fastest in the inaugural Coach Dave time attack and who's going to fight their way over that $1,000 prize pool. $700 goes to the winner, $200 to second, and $100 third. As we said before, it's not a bad haul for basically just an hour and a bits of driving. And to be perfectly honest, when we really drill down into it, it would be $700 for 1 minute and 21 seconds of work.
Not bad for a Thursday evening, is it really? Yeah. I mean, yeah, look, you got in Q2 you can have a couple of runs, like full 3-lap runs, 3 push laps, and then at the end 10 minutes you're going to be pushing maybe half a run really. It's going to be very, very close at the end. So, and it all comes down to how much people back up on that first run. You can easily lose a couple of minutes at the being stuck at the back of the train waiting for everyone to start their first flying runs. So if you do find yourself stuck at the back of that train, you essentially will only have 2 full runs really to make sure you get through into that top 10.
Well, considering that was the busiest session that we have, because it was 19 cars in there, we go down to 15. Do you I guess traffic really shouldn't be a problem anymore?
No, it's more just about that initial run, because obviously everyone will be desperate to get out the pit lane and get that first run in. So that first hot lap, everyone will be spreading out and trying to gain, 3-4 seconds worth of clean air. So yeah, that can kind of just set you back and snowball for the rest of the session if you're not careful. Which is why everyone loves that early pit box, because you can literally just drive straight out the pits and be at the front of the queue as everyone's fighting to get out. And yeah, it just comes down to whether you want to be a bit mean and maybe overtake some traffic on your outlap. I mean, it's a hidden rule, really, isn't it, with motorsport, not to overtake people on outlaps. But the way people do back up sometimes, if you want track position, sometimes you've got to jump the queue. So.
Well, before we get into the real hot laps of this session, because obviously we've got them on their out laps now here in Q2, just want to remind you about some of the other things that are coming up in the SimGrid, of course, courtesy of Coach Dave. Before the 1000 series will return in June, in the start of June, the first week of June, we'll do the Nurburgring 1000. Before we get to that, we do have that new event. Coach Dave presents the 6 hours of Le Mans, which is on iRacing, LMP2s and GT3s. We know a couple of drivers that are taking part in that, right, James? You'll be driving in around there. It'll be a bit of fun.
It will be, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. It was obviously fresh off the back of SRO as well at the weekend, and obviously the 1000. I had to miss that because I was away, and I had a teammate cover for me, and we didn't have the best of races with some crashes and issues. So yeah, Nurburgring's a tricky track, so gonna have to do some practice for that, I guess.
Yeah, indeed. Well, the Coach Dave 6 hours of Le Mans will, by the way, just to remind you as to when it will be and when you can actually listen into the broadcast and such. That is on the 29th of May. That is this weekend on the Sunday, and then the week after the 1000 will also return with that Nurburgring race. With the waffle done, let's focus on the action that we have. Dara McCormack struggled at the start of Q1. Could be a bit of a problem. I mean, I think, thankfully, having set those times late in the session, a bit of a recovery on the confidence side of things. But let's not forget, he didn't top Q1. That was Luke Whitehead who topped Q1. So might feel potentially a little bit concerned in this Q2 session, but needs to get that lap in early. There is not long enough in this session to mess about.
No. I mean, look, I know both of those guys. They have a healthy rivalry when it comes to kind of hot lap times. They're always trying to better each other. So Luke popping that lap time in at the very end of the session, was a bit of a jab back, obviously, at the early times that Dara McCormack did, and yeah, this is just again, it might sound like we're repeating, but obviously in Q2 you don't want to reveal everything. You don't want to show all of your pace. You just want to, that top 10. That lap time is all you need, to get through, whether it's your 6th, 5th, 4th, 7th, 8th, whatever. That's all you're looking for to get into Q3. So obviously you don't want to become complacent, as you said earlier. But yeah, getting this first run is really important, because you don't want to put excess pressure on yourself for the second run, because the clock's already ticking down. You're 6 minutes 40 in, and yeah, on this first 3-lap run, you just want to get your eye in, and then it just settles yourself for the second run. You just have less pressure.
Certainly is. And with that first lap time for Dara McCormack at 21.790, that is a good lap time. Not as fast as Luke Whitehead, but it's a pretty healthy lap time to start off with.
I mean, it's straight out of the box, Lewis. Straight out of the box.
I know. So, I know. First lap. That is brilliant. To be fair, though, they do kind of need to practice the first lap time, because that's what we're having to deal with in the Super Bowl again. We'll get to that later on, but still, they need to get the 1 lap run. There's no point in being the fastest on the 3rd lap, because in the final session where the money's paid for, straight into it. Dominic Blyer as well. That was with Merles that had also spun out there as well, and then Dominic Blyer did exactly the same thing, which I think, as drivers that we've all driven Brands Hatch, I think we can all sit there and go, yes, I have also done that into Surtees as well. It's such an easy mistake. Yeah,
I mean, look, that was a sympathy spin, wasn't it, really? I mean, the Blyer would have been on it, your flat chat through Surtees, cutting as much of the corner as you can, and if you're distracted by Merled's spin on the right-hand side there, you've got to try and second guess yourself, and obviously in that split second, Blyer just picked up with understeer, and as soon as your left rear touches the grass there, you are toast, unfortunately, and it's an instant spin.
Well, the lap time, by the way, for 10th place in the previous session, so it's kind of the lap times that we are aiming for in this, potentially a little bit faster, was a 22.4. That was the time in the previous session. 22.4 at the moment is just about the time that Dominic Blyer has set in 6th place. He's set at 22.495, so obviously we'll need to go a little bit faster. Not to be too critical, but kind of looking at the entry lists, looking for 3 drivers that we're expected to go through into the Super Bowl. Dara McCormack, Luke Whitehead, and Amir Hosseini were definitely 3 that I would expect to fight over it. But then Dominic Blyer was definitely the 4th that I would expect to fight with them over that 3rd spot. At the moment, I'm not seeing that pace.
No, it's weird. I mean, look, the Bentley's obviously quick. I mean, Dara's up there on a 21.7, so the car's definitely capable of 21s. But for whatever reason, Dominic's not quite there yet, and obviously that's the thing. That's what we said about the first run. You want to get that lap in early because now it's 4 minutes to go. Everyone's starting their second runs, and Dominic's got to, he's now dropped to P7, P8. Look, as everyone's dropping in times. You've got to nail it. P9 now, though. I can't even talk quick enough. He's dropping and dropping, and just to solidify yourself in that top 10. P10. Look, he's got to nail these laps now. Really has got to nail these laps.
And nearly, like I say, 10th place. I was wondering if anyone else was going to improve. At the moment, no further lap times are coming in. At least now we've got a few out laps as we're on board with Luke Whitehead. Yeah, to have gone, I think that's the kind of bit when your heart racing. That's why we love these kind of sessions where it is knockout. You've gone from being in 6th place, then everyone's crossed the line, and suddenly you are on the cusp of being knocked out. And Dominic Blythe to be knocked out in this Q2 session would be, to be honest, a little bit of a surprise. That would be one of the heavy hitters already out of this session, so really does need to do slightly more to move through on that state in the obvious, but it really does need to work a little bit harder. Darren McCormack sat in the pit lane at the moment with 3 minutes left in the session, so the 21.7, which is a few hundredths slower than he himself went in Q1, and obviously a little bit slower than what Luke Whitehead did in Q1, as there's a little bit too wide there from Tarek Adam. That's not good.
No, it's he missed the apex in Hawthorns as well, so the lap was a bit messy as Blyer goes only P9 here. So we'll see what Tarek can do as he comes across the line. But yeah, I think the second lap, that was his first push lap, so let's see what he can do on his second lap. Hopefully the tyres will be a bit better for him.
Mir Hosseini running a little bit slower in this session than he did in the previous, behind Riley, Garcia and Contagianis, who did actually a great job for the TF Racing car to move up into 5th place. Hosseini coming through the final section, obviously just ticking off Sterling and now coming down to Clark's, but his back is off, so
he's abandoned the lap.
He's bailed from that one. Obviously still enough time in the session to do 2 time laps, so I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea. And whilst in a race we'd be talking about this being, it's a decent tyre wear circuit, not particularly high but not particularly low, sort of somewhere nicely in the middle. In a quali session like this, yeah, you can afford to do 2 or 3 laps, it's not a problem. So if you do have that traffic ahead, back off and work into it. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, he could see that he was gaining on was Contagianis, wasn't it? Up ahead, I think, maybe. You could see he was catching quite quickly. So, and yeah, the tyres, in the way, especially around brands, they can hang on for 2 or 3 push laps. So if you're not going to improve, you might as well not ruin 2 runs. If he catches him again on the second lap, build yourself a nice gap and then try and get 2 clean laps and hopefully nail it in the last couple.
Again, you can see it in the bottom left, the top 10 in this session will go through into Q3, so we'll lose 5 drivers at the moment. Gorka, who just managed to get through in the previous one. Gates, which would be a shame for me. I only want him to go through purely based on that livery, because I think that would be hilarious. Manisha, Adam and Merles at the moment will be knocked out of this session. Caracas, who was so fast in the previous session, and boom, that is literally what I was about to talk about, needs to do a bit more to get back onto that pace that he had in the previous session, and certainly had found that there. Goes up just behind his teammate now in 4th spot. Great little improvement there, and not really much of a better time to do it than right at the end of the session.
No, I mean, look how close that midfield is. I mean, look, Riley from P3 down to Anka and P10 is 2 tenths. Or, yeah, I mean, that's pretty close. I mean, you can't afford to drop a tenth or 2 here in that midfield. You need to maximise everything. So, obviously, it was a good clean lap from Caracas, and he's on a good lap now, judging from the onboard. An extra 1/10.5 might make all the difference here. We don't know yet. So, it's going to come down to these final runs.
Mir Hosseini's not particularly safe right now, whereas Merles done with the session, has finished in this qualifying session, and so is done for the day 11th spot. Locked in at the moment as Blyer finishes the session himself, moves back up into 4th position. But yeah, Mir Hosseini only 8th position for one of our big heavy hitters. That is not so great. Tarek Adam comes across the line and only gets to 11. There is only one driver then that can improve to get inside the top 10. Everyone else is locked in. Alex Gates is the only one that can do anything about it right now. As a decent improvement from Caracas, here is Alex Gates. Is it going to be good enough to get inside of the top 10 at the moment? Only really improving by a tenth or two. I'm not so sure it's going to be enough. Only goes to 13th, and that's it. We definitely will lose Alex Gates, which is a bit of a shame because that would have been a meme.
And Blyer at the end there, Blyer managed to escape the danger zone there. He managed to put himself up into P5, so at that last run he managed to pull it off. So he's comfortably through, and now the serious stuff starts, Lewis.
It certainly does. Of course, we'll lose. We'll go into another session. We lose 5 from that one, and the next session it goes from 10 all the way down to 3 as we'll look for who's going to battle it out in our Super Bowl session here in the Coach Dave Time Attack. To remind you who we lose in the session: Gorka, Manisha, Gates, Merles and Tarek Adam. Anka, by the way, getting away with that a little bit. Kind of struggled late in the session to set a decent lap time and couldn't really find that pace. Bit of a shame, but still just managing to sneak his way through. Was around about a tenth slower in that session than the previous one. Remember how I said it was a 22.4, which they were kind of needing to do? Well, it ended up being a 22.3, which is kind of what we expect in this. People get faster as the sessions move on. Anything they're hiding, anything they're keeping at bay, well, now's the time to show it.
Absolutely, and we saw that. You know, the bar raising by a tenth there to get in, and there was so close. You know, so many people were on that 22 to 22.3, so very close, very close.
Well, we're going to have a quick chat with Tarek Adam, who unfortunately we say goodbye with. But talk to us about the session. You know, there's a bit of fun out there doing a hot lap competition like this.
Yeah, it was great fun. Didn't have much prep, been busy with exams, so it was quite a challenge just to get the setup working, get the car to do what I want. So yeah, it was quite interesting.
Do you enjoy hammering a car around a circuit like this? You know, it's such a challenging venue here at Brands Hatch to try and get the most out of a car.
Yeah, this track's quite difficult. Like, you have to push every single limit, every single track cut. Like, the grass is deadly. Just the rear left wheel in the last sector and the lap is gone. So this track's when you get it hooked up, it's really rewarding.
And I only really got one more question for you then, which is obviously we have 3 drivers moving into the Super Bowl. If you were to pick those 3, kind of throwing you a bit under the bus here, Tarek, but who would your 3 drivers be?
Well, McCormack and the Bentley, 100%. He's looking really strong. That car seems really quick here, and the Porsche as well of Whitehead. And then the third one, I'm not too sure.
It's a little tricky, that, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's between those 2, honestly, and then maybe if Sony gets a lap together, or I think Plage's there. Yeah. Plage and the Bentley, then yeah, he could be there as well.
Well, thankfully, James, we've asked a driver and they've had the same opinion as us when it comes to the 3 or 4 drivers battling out. Thank you, Tarek. Obviously, have a great evening and thanks for putting on a bit of a show.
Thank you.
Wow, there we go. No, I'm quite relieved at that we can almost classify ourselves as being right there, James. Yeah, with the 4 drivers we're looking at. Yeah, I'll take it.
I mean, look, it's nice to see someone else agrees with us at least. So yeah, look, it's based on the results. I think both McCormack and Whitehead finished P1 and 2 in both sessions. You know, that no one else has usurped them in both sessions. So it's going to be pretty tight between them. I agree with Tarek in Q3, and then it's all down to the ballsy lap at the end with the single run. So yeah, they'll just be setting themselves up for this now in Q3.
Yeah, I don't think this is a guarantee for it being between McCormack and Whitehead. That third driver that gets through, they do have a chance because we'll talk about how Super Bowl works, but they only get, actually it's a Super Bowl, so you can kind of work it out yourselves. They only get 1 lap, and the third driver on it will get knocked out and stuff. We'll talk about it when we get there, but it's going to be pretty thrilling, and it does mean that literally anyone that gets into that session can absolutely win it. At the moment, rolling through the sessions, 21, the only 3 drivers that got into the 21s was Whitehead, McCormack and Hosseini. Hosseini only got into the 21s in Q1, did not manage it in Q2, was actually 2 tenths slower in Q2 than he was in Q1, was the largest difference when it comes to how much slower he was between the 2 sessions was Amir Hosseini. So does need to find a little bit more speed in this session, as you would expect. And do not count out the 2 Viscera drivers in Caracas and Riley, because those 2 looking very, very quick indeed in those McLarens. This is it though, Q3, our battle to get through into that Super Pole session begins now, and it is only 8 minutes. We are looking for 3 drivers from this session, and just 3 to then battle it out for our $1,000 prize pool. It is a pretty tense lap, and if the drivers' heart rates weren't going in Q1 because they felt pretty comfortable, weren't really going in Q2, well, they've got to be turned up to 11 now. I'm expecting to see a good few 160, 180 beats per minute out on track right now.
Yeah, I mean, and this will just be this is when the mental side comes into it. The just blocking everything out and just doing the lap. The guys have done loads and loads of practice around here in a variety of cars over the last few months, just as big time ACC players, and it's now just about nailing everything with minimal mistakes. So this first run will really set the tone for the rest of the session, really. If you can get that first run, and obviously if McCormack can emulate a 21.7 on the first run like he did previously, then yeah, that will give him a lot of confidence.
I will almost guarantee that to get through into the Super Pole, you've got to do a 21. McCormack has done a 21.7 in both sessions. Whitehead didn't. Whitehead did a 21.7 in session 1 in Q1, but only did a 21.9 in Q2. So again, a pretty big disparity between the 2 lap times. Meanwhile, McCormack could replicate on both occasions. Was actually slower in Q2 though, must be said, not by much, but still half a tenth, and I think McCormack, if he sets a 21.7, pretty safe. If you set a 21.8, a 21.9, I would expect that is not safe. We are only looking for 3 drivers after all.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That cutoff is definitely going to be a 22.0. So yeah, the guys are going to all be trying to target that magic 21. And we've got Alberto Garcia here just to see what kind of lap he's on right now. It's his first lap after his out lap. We'll see if he can kind of get a banker in of a low 22. Looks pretty tidy there. And as we come up to Surtees, see how much curb he takes on the inside. Nicely cut there, look. Bit of a bounce though, but managed to keep it within the white lines. And we'll see what run he gets out of here in the penultimate corner. Nice and tidy. And the thing is, on the first lap, some of these guys might be kind of driving within themselves a little bit just to prep the tyres, and yeah, kind of go balls to the walls for the last couple of laps. And we'll see as he crosses the line here what lap time he does. He temps off, so yeah, 22.8 is not what you need. So we'll hopefully Garcia in the next kind of run or the next couple of laps, he'll be able to jump down to that kind of 22.0, that mark that we need.
Well, McCormack's lap time didn't count, so I'm going to assume he's exceeded down at Paddock Hill or into Graham Hill here. So pressure's on for him. Half a session nearly done already. I'm sure he'll be fine, but still, that's mistakes you can ill afford, especially moving into the Super Pole session. The Super Pole session, you only get 1 lap to start with. And by the way, the top 3, just to clarify as to how that's going to work as well, and why it's not just being in the top 3, it's the order in the top 3 that matter. The order that they'll do their Super Pole lap times, it's determined by the finishing order in this session. So P3 will go first, then P2, then P1 in the session. They will go out in that order in the Super Pole session. So Dara McCormack manages to stay within the track limits this time, so he does do a 21.8 crossing the line, and the top 3 becomes Whitehead and Hosseini, as Bly is sat in 4th position. Apel, Riley, Anka, Caracas, Garcia, and then Contagianis rather. But watch out for Caracas and Riley. They have been fast all evening so far, and we'll see if they can pump in any good lap times in the latter moments of the session. That will not go well though. Big Big miss of the apex there going into the first corner, James. I mean, I think we've all done that at Paddock Hill before.
That was a massive moment. Yes, that was oversteer city there, and that's not what you want. You know, it's very easy to do that if you just time your braking a bit too late as you crest the hill there. So that's a lap ruined. He's going to have to, because his tyres will be shot. He'll have to quickly jump back to the pits and stick a new set of tyres on for the next run, really, because they'll be toast for the next lap after that. But you know, as we said, 22.0 was going to be kind of around the cutoff. We needed a 21.9. Hosseini's on a 22.0 right now, isn't he? I do believe.
22.0 is Hosseini, yes. Right now it is 22.0.
Yes.
It's just about a 22.0 as well, I believe, just by Whitehead as well. They definitely will need to get into the 21s because I think Bly's got a little bit more pace in hand to go and attack them a little.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, Bly has shown he's got pace in this session. He just needs to hook up that lap. You know, he did that towards the end of the last sessions. So let's see what he can do. Caracas as well, obviously, once he puts a new set of tyres on, he should be gunning for that kind of high 21. So Hosseini's not safe there, and neither is Luke, really, if the other two pick up their laps.
Anka moves up into 8th position, 1 minute and 50 seconds left to go, so they're beginning the final runs of the session. Whitehead's on the start-finish straight now to begin his penultimate lap time. Does have a little bit of lap traffic in the form of Contagiannis, but you know, I'm sure it'll be fine. We're on board though with Blyo for the Triton Racing team. Comes up towards Hawthorns, now towards Westfield Bend. This part's so tricky. It's rights into rights into rights. Little bit too wide there at Westfield though, but might be okay.
He'll be safe at track limits, I think, Lewis. I think he'll be safe there.
It's tight.
Yeah, it is tight. It's alright to catch the grass there if you'll still keep your forward momentum up. You can see he's pushing. You know, it's now or never really. A minute to go. He's got one last lap. So let's see how tight he is out of Clark Curve here. Nice. Almost caught the grass there with his front left, and that sucks you in, but he's okay. Hugging the white line, and we're now 9 or 10. What's that? Is that 10 hundredths behind Hosseini now? I mean, and he's pulled out. That's it. That's run gone. He's slowed down. So that's the session over for him now.
That's a bit of a shame. It was tight. Riley managed to get up into 5th position, so one by one they're being taken out. I think Caracas is the only one that potentially had the lap time in hand to maybe get amongst the top 3. Only goes to 6th, but still can set this lap time a little bit wide at Paddock Hill, though didn't quite hook it into that apex. They're all being taken out one by one. Anka now out of the session. He's done for the day. So we're already seeing a lot of them go by the wayside, and right now McCormack, Whitehead and Hosseini, the top 3. It would be so irritating for Dominic Bly to miss out by just 100 a second, and yeah, I'm thinking Caracas might have gone a bit wide there.
Yeah, he picked up a bit of oversteer on the entry there, which is easy to do because it's a downhill braking zone, and he's wide there. He's going to have to, yeah, this is not going to get him through, I don't think. You know, Surtees there, took too much exit curve there and picked up a chunk of grass, so yeah, I think this lap is toast, Lewis.
Yeah, I think that is another one sat by the wayside then, and we'll have to watch on as Superpole will begin. Hosseini, I mean, even at this point of the session, as much as they are as near as makes a difference confirmed as going through, you've still got to try and put in a good lap time. You're trying to, again, as we were saying before, you've got to fire a warning shot over towards your competitors. Show them what you've got in the tank. Show them what they have to do with one final lap in that Super Bowl session. A little bit too wide again. McCormack is done. Whitehead is done. Hosseini is done. Session is done.
And that is the top 3 that we thought, wasn't it, Lewis? I think.
Yeah, we were. Well, to be fair, the top 4 is what we thought, because we were, you know, that it was that 3rd spot. We weren't sure if it was going to be Hosseini or Blyer. And to be fair, to prove that point, they were separated by 100th of a second. So I think this season we're firing all cylinders, mate. You're all right with the commentary, B?
This commentary malarkey's quite easy, isn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. You know, yeah, you're seeing. This is why all the drivers being like, oh, you commentators know nothing, and they're right. But also when we're correct and stuff on this, it's like, yeah, go on, have some of that.
Yeah, you
have
can
some of that.
Full responsibility for your decisions, then, can't you? But yeah, that's that was a really close session there towards the end, but it just showed, you know, those last few runs, everyone was making the small mistakes. You know, when they really needed to pull that lap out of the bag. Saw Caracas running wide there, and in Graham Hill Bend, and then Surtees afterwards and abandoned the lap, and it all just become a bit messy towards the end there. So it just shows you when the pressure's on, and the prize pool would be on people's minds. I mean, who wouldn't want to win that 100%. For an evening's work? The mistakes started to creep in there, and obviously we may see that with this Super Pole. I mean, you got one lap to nail it now.
Well, every single session, the top time has been slower in each. Started with a 21.732 from Luke Whitehead in Q1. Dara McCormack did a 21.790 in Q2, and then Dara McCormack again did a 21.842. So they're going slower by about half a tenth a session. Now that we have our top three in McCormack, Whitehead and Hosseini, we have our guaranteed 3 drivers that will take money from the prize pool. Again, to remind everyone at home, it is a $1,000 prize pool. P1, the fastest time, will be able to take $700 home. Then it's $200 and then $100 for third, which, to be fair, even $100, let's be honest, I'd take it. That ain't bad for an evening's action, but they've had to do the work to get through to this point. And how this session is going to work, because this is the bit which we'll do some explaining. Essentially, what will happen is they will go out in reverse order of their finishing positions from Q2. So Hosseini will go out first, then Whitehead, then McCormack. They will all set times. The slowest of those 3 will be knocked out of the session, basically straight away. And then it comes down to the 2 that are left. So say, for example, if Hosseini sets his 22.065, he's done. It's between McCormack and Whitehead. Their sessions their times don't delete, though. That is the important bit. It will still be in this sense, a 21.8 for McCormack, and then it's up to Whitehead to beat that lap time to try and take it on. It's going to be a thrilling session, which you'll have to stay with us to see. It will begin in about 4 minutes time. Before then, we're just going to step aside for a breather. Getting ready for the qualifying session. I think, he just left. I was going to catch a word with Luke Whitehead there. That would have been a bit of an interesting one going into a session like that. But James, for someone that's had your fair share of qualifying session, he's back. No, never mind. We'll drag him in very quickly.
He's back, Lewis. Grab him.
We'll drag him in quick. very quickly because we don't want to hold you up too much. Luke Whitehead, going into this session, what is going through your mind right now?
Optimism. I'm not quite as prepared as I kind of want to be, and seeing how quick Dara is, I mean, he's really quick at this track anyway, and he obviously is incredibly good in that Bentley. He's always going to be very difficult to beat, but I'm optimistic that I can pull something out of the bag. But to secure a top 3, I'm happy anyway, to be honest.
You set the fastest lap of the evening so far with that 21.732 in Q1. Was that a nature of that session? Because you've not been able to quite replicate that. Where did that lap time come from?
I just got everything right, really. I mean, I know I can do quicker than that, but for some reason I'm just not able to extract it right now. So yeah, it's frustrating because I know that a 0.6 is in there. I've done one before in these temps, so I know that the time is there. It's just me not driving like an idiot and making mistakes on the lap. But as I said, to get a top 3, I'm decently happy already. Hopefully I can get P2 or P1, but we'll see what happens. We will see what happens.
Well, we've just been given our 1 minute warning, so don't worry, Luke. We're not going to hold you back. Good luck with the session.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the show, guys.
And this will be a show for sure. Great. I will say that's great sportsmanship to jump into the interview room between the sessions to be like, right, let's have a quick word before I have to lob this car around what is one of the hardest racetracks in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best mental prep, I guess, is it really? I mean, you want to be concentrating and just triple checking the setup and making sure on new tires and the fuel. Everything will be kind of going through his head with that. So yeah, I mean, it's a good sport, I guess. I mean, it's fair play. I mean, I wouldn't want to be talking to you, Lewis, before
I don't want to talk to me anyway.
But yeah, I'm interested to see if someone does the scrub tyre strat, where they maybe did just a single lap in quali on a set of tyres, because that second lap does give you an advantage. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone took a single lap scrub set of tyres that will kind of give you grip on the second lap, or a brand new set, and see how quick you go on the first lap. So,
well, here we go. As we said, Amir Hosseini will be the first driver out onto the circuit. They go in reverse order, so we'll see Hosseini's lap. Well, obviously, he's got to do an out lap here, so let's not jump straight into the madness. But you see there, I mean, talk us through this, because you've obviously got to do quite a large warming process on these tyres right now. Got to get them in that temperature window for just one single lap.
Yeah, I mean, he would have put extra fuel in the car, so he can literally just smash that brake pedal. I mean, you'll be riding the brake pedal all the way around the lap when you're not, even when you're accelerating. The tyres, yeah, it's tough to switch them on for that first lap. So you want the brakes to be almost orange, so they kind of put some heat into the front tyres, because the McLaren, being mid-engined, it doesn't put a lot of heat into the fronts, whereas the Bentley and the Bentley the Porsche will also struggle from this. So you kind of just want to get the front tyres up, because it's all high speed in this second sector, so you want the front tyres to be with you. You don't want any kind of pushy understeer here on the push lap. So yeah, obviously Amir's driving really super aggressively here to try and generate some temp, and it'll all be about that first sector. If he hooks up that first sector, it'll just make it'll bring him confidence for that second sector, and see if he can nail it.
Well, obviously, we're going to see all of these laps in their entirety. Amir Hosseini just using all of that turn-in point, getting all the way over to the left-hand side before punching it to set a lap time around Brands Hatch here. His fastest lap of the evening so far has been a 21.9 into Paddock Hill. Super wide entry. Missed the apex, though. Way too wide. This lap time has already... I mean, it's not gone, don't get me wrong, but he's got to nail the rest of the lap. That's surely already gone to his head.
Yeah, I mean, look, Darren and Luke now know that they can give 2 or 3 temps on T1 and still be, faster, as long as Amir doesn't make another mistake. So we'll see as he comes into 30s here, what his line's like. He'll probably already be 3 or 4 temps down here after that first corner. It's a good exit out of 30s, so he had good traction, and Graham Hill Bend was still pretty tidy as well. So we'll see into Hawthorns here how tidy he is on the entry here. Kisses the apex nicely there, that's good, and uses all the track, avoids the grass, and then Westfield's here, cuts enough on the entry. Yeah, it's a solid lap so far, but that first corner is now basically left it up to the gods, really. I mean, it's out of his hands.
Yeah, he's basically got to sit there and hope that one of the other lap times from Whitehead and McCormack isn't so great. Reminder that after these first laps are done from each of these three, the driver that is in third place will be knocked out of this session. That comes down to the top two. Let's see what
he's too wide. He's too wide
for Clark. What does Amir Hosseini do as he comes across the line? He's aiming for a 21. I don't think he's going to get it, and he certainly doesn't. A 22.3. This has to be a mistake from the other two. They have not set I think all these two in both Q1, Q2 and Q3 as well, they have always set a 21 in the session. It could come down to one of those mistakes from McCormack though, because in 2 of those sessions he didn't open it with a clean lap time. He did get a lap discounted from that. Let's then see with Luke Whitehead, who we caught up with between Q3 and this Super Bowl session. What can he do? Let's see if he nails this first corner. Again, very wide on entry, turning in, hooks up the apex nicely. That was clean.
That was very clean, yeah. He managed to kiss the curb on the inside, which you want for a bit of rotation. And obviously Druid's a little wide there. He want to be hugging the inside curb without actually riding the curb there. So, but you can double apex it. Graham Hill Bend here. Nice rotation there on the entry, and will not have a track limit warning there. That's nicely cut on the exit there. Must be going to 30s. You can do 2 different lines here. You can go early or late on the entry there. It was kind of middle of the road there. It was absolutely fine. Kissed the apex nice and late, and a good run out down to Hawthorns Bend here. We'll see what he does on the entry. Again, this is so important here to avoid the bump on the inside. Does it beautifully. perfect amount of curb on the exit here, and then Westfields, you want to cut as much as you physically can there, just to keep up your rolling speed. And now we're into the Sheen curve again. That's good. Perfect amount of cutting there on the exit with the grass. Gets a good run. You can obviously run wide here without a loss, I mentioned earlier. It's been a clean lap so far. I think this will probably be a 22 flat or a 21.9. I think come the flag. Just needs a good run out of the final corner, and then just hugs that white line to the right hand side for the minimum distance, and it is a 22 flat. I was bang on. Yeah, that's good first run there.
Yeah, not the fastest time that Whitehead set this evening, as we see the outlap now from Dara McCormack, and we can see what's possible for this young man. He's been plenty fast enough in for any sort of competition, to be honest. I was going to say specifically the SRO esports stuff, but basically anything that we've seen Dara McCormack racing, he has been very, very fast, and definitely one of the fastest drivers for Williams Esports, of course, alongside his teammate Tinko van der Velde as well. The two of them brilliant on speed. Had to team up with Nikodem and Kuba Brzezinski, or rather Tinko van der Velde did, and they were switching out over the weekend. We'll focus on the lap time then from McCormack. Nice and clean, a little bit too wide once again through Paddock Hill. Now into the braking zone coming up towards Druids, same as what Whitehead did.
Again,
way too deep on the brakes, hooks it up to that second apex though. Would have lost a little bit of time there, but he's just aiming to beat the 22.3 that Amir Hosseini has done. That is the time that he needs to beat. It's not necessarily about Whitehead's time just yet. A little bit wide on entry, brings it back over to the left hand side, going through Surtees, and now on the straight toward Hawthorns. It goes down, it comes back up, and then you'll find that slightly later apex, of course, going into Hawthorns. Just a tap on the brakes, you don't need to scrub off too much speed. Hook it over a little bit wide again there from McCormack, but nothing too major. Like you've said before, slam it over the curb on the right hand side. Don't go too far out to the left, because you'll get a track excursion. You'll just get pulled off the circuit by the grass. And now this is it, one of the hardest parts of the track. Oh, I thought he was going a little bit too wide there. Does Sheen curve brilliantly into Sterling, hooks it up with a little bit of the curb on the left hand side. Now punches it down towards the final corner of this circuit. Almost too much time to think about Clark. Throw it in, find the apex, little bit too far off of it, but still manages to carry decent speed through. I think this is going to be a little bit faster than Whitehead's potentially, maybe a 22.0. It's a little bit slower by 3 thousandths of a second, a 22.1 essentially. But Amir Hosseini is done with the session. Whitehead takes the advantage for now. Now we'll say goodbye to that third carb. We still have another couple of laps to do.
Yeah, and it was all in Druids, that 3 thousandths of a second where Whitehead went slightly wide. You know, Dara went even wider, and he just couldn't caress the front end back quick enough. But as you said, Amir, it was all T1. You know, going that wide at Paddock Hill Bend, you're giving away 3-4 tenths straight away. So even if he'd had a mighty second and third sector, Luke and Dara could have just afforded to have a 95% lap there and get through.
Indeed, we will see them do another lap time. So essentially, the lap times don't get removed from the board. They are going to stay on there, but they get another attempt to go quicker. So for Whitehead at the moment on that 22.092, Dara McCormack on a 22.095. They'll go back out in 2 minutes' time, as in the session will resume once again at 19:30. But essentially, it is a kind of an advantage towards Luke Whitehead, but it's sort of like kind of, because they can both very comfortably go fast. Now we know they've got 2, 3 tenths, 4 tenths even in hand to beat that lap time with. But how do you kind of build yourself up into a session like this where you've only got one lap time? What can you do to kind of push yourself that little bit further?
Well, I think the one thing that Luke's got on his side now is he can actually see what Dara's got. You know, if he beats... Okay, so Luke... Yeah, so if Luke's going first, he's got to try and extend that gap, I guess. You know, the 1.5 tenths, 2 tenths. If he can get that 21.8 on that single lap, then it just piles all the pressure back towards Dara. So the one thing that he will just want to tidy up is Druids. You know, just make sure he kisses the apex much better on that second lap. I mean, the rest of the lap looked very tidy. You know, he cut all the right parts of the track, didn't clip the grass too aggressively in the areas that you want to avoid. And if he tidies up T2, there's probably a 10th and a half there. So If he does that and gets that kind of down to a 21.8, then Dara's really got to pull out the bag.
Now, naturally, between those 2 laps, because it was still in the same session, so it's not between 2 sessions. Between those 2 laps, Luke Whitehead's not going to join us in the commentary booth for an interview, and I do not blame him, not even a little bit. But like you say, he's essentially the hare. He's the one that's going to be setting the pace right now. He's already set the pace in the form of a 22.092, which stays on the leaderboard. But whatever time he sets in this lap, if it is faster than that 22.0, Dara McCormack knows what he needs to do. At the moment, Luke Whitehead doesn't know what he needs to do. He just needs to know that he's got to do whatever he can, go as fast as he possibly can, which is just standard for a qualifying session, surely.
Absolutely, and he was much tidier through there this time around. So we'll see what the rest of the lap is like now.
Is it not an outlap at the moment?
He could be outlap. Okay, outlap. Sorry. Apologies.
Sorry,
I thought we were ahead of ourselves here. I said that. No wonder it was tidy. It was probably half speed. But yeah, you'll have to settle himself down now on the outlap. He knows what he needs to do. He's done enough hot laps in his time, Luke. He just needs to nail sector 1. That kind of puts you in a good peace of mind for sector 2. And then once sector 3's. Whilst you can make a mistake, generally if you've had a good sector 1 and sector 2, the kind of confidence just snowballs, and you kind of just then rely on your muscle memory to do the rest in the last couple of corners, the Polesmith corner and Clark curves. So we'll see as he kind of prepares himself now. And the key thing here is to get Paddock Hill Bend right. We saw with Amir Hosseini, Messi T1 can end the lap for you.
It's not only Paddock Hill, Druids as well, because we know that on both Whitehead and McCormack. That was it's that first section that's a struggle point. Let's see with Whitehead then into Paddock Hill. Throws it in brilliantly. Just a touch of that curb on the right hand side, but nothing too major. Let's see if the apex is hit beautifully. Little deep again.
Wide again. Yeah, he just a bit too greedy on the entry there. And also as you crest the hill, you trigger the ABS, and if you trigger the ABS too much, you just wash wide. So Graham Hill Bend was perfect there, but yeah, he's again lost a 10.5 maybe in Druids, Lewis.
Now onto the straight, such an important corner. That looks pretty clean to me, but onto the Hawthorne straight, out of Surtees, such a high commitment part of the track. Let's see if this is clean. It was tidy through Graham Hill, tidy through Surtees. Is it going to be tidy through Hawthorne's? Need to nail it. A little bit of oversteer, I think.
Yeah, he had a little bit of a swapper on mid corner that he had to correct, and but again, Westfields was perfect there. He was fine with track limits there. I think shouldn't be an issue. And then it's just about nailing Surtees, carrying loads of momentum here, and then getting your braking right. You want to get a lot of early rotation here. Monster curve on the inside. It's a good run. It's a good lap, but we'll be touch and go whether it's quicker than his original lap. So we'll see. Wasn't too greedy on the entry there either. I thought he'd open up the final corner a bit more there. And now he's powering towards the start-finish line. We'll see what it is.
I certainly feel like it is a little bit faster as he'll cross the line. 21.940. So Dara McCormack does have the work now to do. The pressure is absolutely on here at Brands Hatch. Despite missing Druids, that was a great lap time. It was tidy, it was clean, It was aggressive, but it was just what he needed to do.
Absolutely, yeah. That he would have definitely lost a 10.5 in Druids. So we'll see here as Dara goes into his hot lap what he can do, but yeah, he needs to pull at least 2 temps here. So we'll see with the tidy Druids what he can do.
1 minute then and 22 seconds basically to decide who is going to get $700. It all comes down to this one final lap. Dara McCormack has all of the work to do. Going down to Paddock Hill Bend, he'll hook it up over to the apex once again. Beautiful on that curve on the right hand side. Will he make Druids though? Onto the brakes heavily, turns it in, hooks the apex up. That looks nice to me.
Absolutely does, Lewis. He got it there. That's a good chunk of time to be at least 2 or 3 temps up there now. See if he can carry the momentum up through Graham Hill Bend. Perfect there. Cut nice into the bollards there in Graham Hill Bend. And that's all about the run out of Surtees. Can he get a good exit?
And whilst it's been tidy so far, the thing is he cannot get complacent. It's not as if this part of the lap can then just be all right. It still needs to be brilliant. According to the Delta, he is 1.5 tenths up right now, which is exactly what he needs. Incredibly tight, straight into Hawthorne's. It's looking good.
That's a good amount of momentum, yeah. You can afford to run a little bit wide there on the grass. He'd have carried a lot of rolling speed there. Same again here. right on the limit there, and Surtees is do or die now. Lots of momentum. Look, real experience. It's going to be so close. We're going to be hundredths apart here at the end, I think, Lewis.
Remember, it was 3,000 a second that separated these on the first laps. It's dropping a little bit here as he runs into the final corner, but he did lose a bit of time here.
Exit.
Down through Clark's curves now. Beautiful on the exit. What's it going to be? A 21.940 to beat Dara McCormack to the lines. Is that the fastest time here? And it is a 21.890. And Dara McCormack will just about take the Coach Dave time attack here at Brands Hatch. He was the favourite coming into it, and he reacted. That was a brilliant lap.
That was insane. I mean, it come down to hundredths. I mean, look, the whole session, these guys were separated by hundredths of a second, and you know, it comes down to the mistake. You know, Luke made that mistake, and even on his second lap, and he definitely gave away a tenth there. And obviously, Darren Inshori nailed it, and that sector one is probably what settled it in the end.
I did feel that Dara was maybe a little bit too cautious at Surtees. He obviously lost a little bit in Sterling's as well. So there was more time in it. I think that is for sure. But it was a fantastic session. We'll grab Luke Whitehead back in here because we obviously want to have a chat and basically say, I mean, it can't get much closer than that, Luke. Such a tight little session there. What do you think went wrong? It's such small margins.
Pain. You know, when 500 separates $500, it's pretty tough to take. But you know, I mean, I expected Dara to win, to be honest. You know, he did an awesome job. So, GG, congrats to him. Like, he drove a perfect lap. So, yeah, a little bit gutted, to be honest. I mean, I think if I just got Sector 1 right, like, I lost a tenth and a half compared to my best in Sector 1, and everything else was perfect. Like, Sector 2, Sector 3, I set what I set in the 0.7. So if I just got Sector 1 right, I'd have done it. But you know, he's probably going to be looking at his lap thinking exactly the same. You know, he did a 0.7 in practice as well. So we both had a lot more on the table. But yeah, I can't help but feel a little bit disappointed. But, you know, Dara deserves it. So GG to him. If I'm honest, in that situation, I don't think I could have got much more. I was just a little bit too nervous. But, you know, that's how it goes sometimes.
What's kind of going through your mind in a Super Bowl session like this? You know, you already had a time on the board where you went into that second lap of this session having the fastest time by just 0.03 of a second. Surely at that point you knew you had to improve because you know you both, that was a 22.1. You know, you needed a 21. What's kind of going through your mind then? You know, to settle the nerves.
I mean, obviously I knew that Druids I absolutely bottled on the previous lap, absolutely messed it up. So I was like, if I get that right and get the rest of the lap, like I knew I had just bits and pieces in the rest of the lap. So I knew that if I just got that right, which I didn't, I'd be able to get in the 0.8. But you know, it was all about just marginal gains, making marginal sort of improvements across the lap, and that's all I really did. I didn't try anything drastically different. I just was trying to get a clean lap, trying to improve ever so slightly. But yeah, it wasn't enough in the end, unfortunately.
Well, it was a great little session, a great little fight that you put on. Thank you so much for putting on that show.
No worries. I very much enjoyed it. I hope they hold more because hopefully next time I'll be better equipped to beat Dara because he'll be the one that's always up there. So at least I know what I need to do next time. So yeah, as I said, thanks for SimGrid and Coach Dave for holding this awesome thing, and great job to Dara, Amir, and everyone else who got through.
And speaking of Dara McCormack, I think it's about time that we speak to our event winner because it required some very, very good lap times there, including one major one at the end. Dara, talk us through that final lap. It was pretty brave stuff out there.
Thanks, Lewis. Yeah, I mean that was a pretty good lap. All right, I just put it together, I suppose. Sorry, I'm still a bit of shock. The lap took everything out of me, but yeah, I mean, it was. I don't know what to say because I got to the last turn and I knew I had time there, so I just focused on improving the first sector, keeping the middle sector clean, and then improving in the last turn mainly. And the last turn is what won it for me. So yeah, there you have it.
What's the because obviously the difference between this and, say, for example, a race where you get into the rhythm and stuff, and you just consistently tick off lap times. How do you just basically turn it on straight away? Because you only get one lap in the Superpoles, you only get a couple of laps in the qualifying sessions before it. How do you just go from I'm sat in the pit lane, I'm doing my out lap, and now boom, I need to set in one of the best laps I've done all evening?
On the out lap, I just focus on completely getting everything out of my mind. And then when it comes to the pits, I kind of do the same. I'm trying to get everything out of my mind. It's hard, but it works sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. But yeah. Then when I get onto the lap, I focus on just being as smooth as possible. And yeah, as I say, I just focused on the last turn mainly because I knew that's where the guts of half a tenth was, and that's what could have won it for me, and that's exactly what won it for me. So yeah.
And also, finally, you came into this winning the 3 hot lap challenges to get your way into this. Obviously, winning the prizes and such from SimPlace on your partnership, on your way rather into our final here. Did you kind of feel that coming into this being the favourite, there was a lot of extra pressure on your shoulders, or did you kind of feel that everyone kind of knew the likes of Amir Hosseini going to be plenty fast enough, but then of course Luke Whitehead was going to be your major challenger, Dominic Byer and stuff. There was a lot of talent out there on track as well.
People kept telling me that you're going to win this, and I didn't want to hear that, because when I hear that, I always don't win it. Like I never win it. So, but this time I pulled it off, thank God, and yeah, I'm really happy. There was a lot of pressure coming into this, especially this being my favorite track and the Bentley being one of my favorite cars in the game. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of pressure, and yeah, I mean, GG to Luke, very well done, absolutely incredible lap from him as well. So yeah, nothing else to say really. It's just crazy.
Well, thank you for putting on a great show for us, and congratulations, and obviously go and enjoy the prize money.
Thank you.
Well, what a lovely evening of action. Typically we come to this point and we speak of the great racing that we've had, but we didn't need racing this evening. We just needed some great lap times, and we certainly had that, James.
Absolutely, and at the end of the day, it literally came down to one corner. Whoever got Druids right on that final lap was going to take home the prize. And obviously, as Luke said, as we picked up in commentary, he just couldn't nail Druids enough to gain that extra 10th and a half that would have put him into P1 to get that 0.7, and it made all the difference. Dara did. Kept it clean in that final corner, like you said, where he could gain a bit of extra time on his delta. He knew that, he had that in his pocket. That would have given him a bit of confidence going into the final corner. And yeah, just as we said, half a tenth towards the the line. I mean, that's super close. Fingers crossed if there is a next edition, it would be just as close.
Wow, what a super evening of entertainment. Don't forget, by the way, of the other things that you can get involved with when it comes to stuff here in the SimGrid. Of course, Coach Dave presents the 6 hours of Le Mans, which will be on Sunday, the 29th of May, this coming weekend. You can watch that 6-hour race. That is on iRacing, so that'll be a little fantastic challenge. You can watch this loon throwing it around the race circuit as well, because James will be in that. And apparently, Michael Hamlet is also driving. Well, I'm definitely tuning in. My goodness, what a treat! As the only AMG on the field as well, so that'll be a bit of a treat for everyone. And of course, the weekend after, we are also back with the return of the Coach Dave 1000, round 3 of the season, and the 1000 kilometers of the Nurburgring. Also, when it comes to things here in the Coach Dave Time Attack, there's no dates just yet, but we will be back very soon with something of the like. So please keep in touch. Keep your eye on all things social media, SimGrid, all things social media, Coach Dave Academy, and head over there as well, because why not? I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Lewis McGlade, James Parker alongside, and for everything here, it's goodbye.